Welcome to Chapter 4. Here we talk about segmenting the markets that we operate in. That is, breaking them into little pieces and then subsequently positioning our brand or company in the minds of our target market. So here in this chapter we talk about market segmentation, differentiation, and positioning. So let's dive in and see what they are all about. So here is the essence of this chapter. After you've analyzed the direct marketing environment and the external market environment and have produced a SWOT analysis for your company, you want to go to the market and sell using a good marketing mix. But before you do that, you need to decide upon the first element of the marketing strategy, if you remember, which is the group or groups of customers you want to sell to. So you break up the overall market into small groups who are similar on some dimension or dimensions, an activity that is called market segmentation, and you identify the groups you want to sell to. This chapter will tell you the state of the art as to how marketers identify these groups. Subsequently, they decide either to sell to them or ignore them. The groups they find attractive and want to sell to, they develop a marketing mix for each of those groups. So most markets and companies today look like this. They are catering to a variety of customers who have different needs from each other. People could be buying their toothpaste, for example, for fresh breath, anti-cavity, whitening action, herbal action, or even a combination of some of these. Identifying these different groups of customers in a market who have relatively similar needs is basically what market segmentation is all about. But before we throw in the term segmentation, what is meant by a market first? One thing we need to know is that the whole population is not the market. A market has to have certain qualifying characteristics, and at the very least, they should need the product and should have the ability and willingness to buy. So if I asked you how big is the passenger car market in the USA, your answer won't be 300 million, which is the population of the USA. It will be a number much smaller than that. By the way, do you know how many cars were sold in the US in the year 2015? Well, the number was 17.5 million cars. And market segmentation is the process of dividing a market into smaller groups so that you can focus on a specific group of customers whose needs are similar and who your company will be in the best position to serve, and hence can develop a sustainable competitive advantage over time. I would like to emphasize here that marketers must clearly define and describe their target market in terms of a variety of relevant dimensions that you read about in the textbook, because customers differ from each other on these very dimensions. They can differ on geographic, demographic, behavioral, or even psychographic segmentation. So customers live in different parts of the world, geographically, in markets of varying sizes and different climates. So these are some of those dimensions. They also differ in demographic terms as to how much they earn, how old are they, what they do for a living, etc. Then they can differ in their behavior towards a product, what benefit they are primarily seeking. How much of the product do they use? Do they use it a lot? Some people drink 10 cans of soda in a day, and there are others who drink 10 cans in 1 year. So they vary a lot. Customers differ in how familiar they are with a brand. Some are loyal to a given brand. Others have not even heard about it. They also behave differently when they are in the process of buying. Some do a lot of research before buying and they behave differently, while others just quickly make a purchase. And lastly, customers differ in their personalities and lifestyles as well, even though other dimensions could be the same. Surprisingly, this dimension is not mentioned in your textbook, but it is used by many companies out there. One firm that is a leading consultant in the area of psychographic segmentation is Strategic Business Insights. Here, right here at the bottom. This firm conducts research and has divided the US market into 8 major segments. You can follow this link and read all about it. You will also have an assignment to do on psychographic segmentation a little later. So after you consider these dimensions, you might find that the market you operate in has a few clear segments, and these segments are different from each other in many ways. So your next job will be to decide as to which segment or segments you want to cater to. Do you want to cater to 1, 2, or maybe more segments? Also, do you want to cater to 2 or more segments using the same product or different products and different marketing mixes? So these are some of the decisions one has to think about. For example, the bicycle riders market could look like this after you've analyzed your market. 5 large, clearly different segments that have different profiles and different needs and wants. But the question is, how do we find out that these segments exist in the market? Well, the procedure is outside the scope of this book and the course, but to give you an idea, this is typically how it is done by the practitioners. The statistical technique used is cluster analysis. This tool is also available in the popular SPSS software that is used on most campuses, including Seidman College. And broadly, these are the steps that are followed. You choose a market, you collect data on the market on a bunch of variables, and many of those variables come from the geographic, demographic, behavioral, and psychographic dimensions. You apply cluster analysis to it, and magically you are shown the segments that exist in the market. You then go ahead and choose the segments that make the most sense to you. So after you apply the cluster analysis, this is the kind of output you get. It can show you some large segments which are hidden inside the data, or depending on what instructions you are giving to the software, it could show you clusters like this. So this is how the cluster analysis is going to show you the presence of various segments. You may decide to go after large groups of customers or may decide to focus on smaller groups. That is your own subjective decision. However, in taking that decision, I would like to remind you about the 4 characteristics of good market segments that you read about in the text. Remember, they should be homogeneous within, heterogeneous between, substantial, and operational. I hope you remember. A few reasons why segmentation is important. In its essence, I'll tell you that segmentation is important because customers are different, and it helps you focus and plan better instead of just doing mass marketing. When you try to be everything to everybody in the market, you end up being pretty much a nobody in the market. Target marketing is definitely the better way to go. One quick note here. If a company decides to pursue multiple target markets, then although it might be a bigger opportunity over time, such a strategy does have several costs associated with it that should be kept in mind by the marketer. To remind you again, the three options that a firm has are single, multiple, and combining target markets. So you can click here, the three options, they will take you back to the slide earlier. These are the three options the marketer has, and then you have to choose from among these choices. Let's go ahead to our... Okay, so that is all on market segmentation. We will talk about differentiation and positioning in part 2 of the lecture. Goodbye for now.